Okay, everybody stop what you're doing. Emergency geography quiz time. Grab your pencils. We're doing this. All right, so actually, you know what? We can have an actual geography quiz. Why not? What are the capital cities of the countries of Serbia, Sierra Leone, and Barbados? Get off your phone. I know what you're doing. You're like, I know, I'll just look it up. No, I want the capital cities. I know them by heart. Why don't you know them by heart? That's why it's a quiz, okay? Capital cities: Serbia, Sierra Leone, Barbados. In the comments right now. Okay, good. They're locked in. You got them right. You got them wrong. Okay, so we have an emergency geography discussion, though, we need to discuss relating to One Piece, ladies and gentlemen, all right? So the Straw Hats are leaving Wano. Finally. It took long enough, but we finally made it here, all right? Which means they're heading to the next island. Now, what is the next island? Well, you know what? It's actually way more narrowed down than you would think, honestly. I went on the wiki and I was looking at like all the islands in the New World. I thought more locations had been mentioned that the Straw Hats have not visited yet. There's actually a lot of islands in Paradise that they never went to, and there's a few in the New World, but not in this particular area they're at right now. Like, at the beginning of the New World, remember, there was Raijin Island, Mystoria Island, and Risky Red Island. So, technically speaking, we have not even seen those islands yet. I mean, we saw Raijin Island, but, you know, the Straw Hats had never been there. I guess, technically speaking, they could go back there later, but those were way back at the beginning of the New World, all right? We're, like, I guess halfway or around halfway with Wano right now. So, there were 3 different islands that were specified by the New World log pose with the 3 different compasses, as explained by law. There's an island to the northeast of Wano, to the east of Wano, and to the southeast of Wano, okay? And because Law kind of understood that, like, Luffy and Kid were going to pick the one that goes east because they would just instantly assume that one would gain the most, you know, progress in the New World, Law's like, all right, yeah, you can argue over the one to the east. I'm going northeast because if you look at the map, that's the one that actually you make the most progress with, okay? So Law is heading northeast, and then Kid and Luffy drew lots, like drew straws to see who was going to go to the one to the east, which was the second most progress, and then the one to the southeast is actually parallel to Wano, meaning you're not actually making a lot of progress on the Grand Line if you go to the southeast. And unfortunately, I guess Luffy drew the short straw, so now the Straw Hats, I assume, are going southeast. I mean, Luffy could always just be like, you know what, screw this, Nami, I'm not doing just what, you know, Eustace Kid told me to do, I'm going wherever. Set sail for that direction. I'm like, Luffy, that's the comm belt. Set sail for that direction. I mean, I guess Luffy, I mean, that's kind of what happened at the beginning of the New World, right? They land in the New World, and Nami just had this whole explanation with the New World log pose from the Minister of the Left, and he was like, this is how the log pose works in the New World. You have 3 different options. And we're sitting there as like a fan base, and we're like, wow, 3 different options. That's insane. And Luffy's like, the 4th one. And it's like, of course, it's Luffy. So let's just assume that doesn't happen and we actually are going southeast next. Which island is that? Well, we actually have a pretty good idea on what they are because I noticed a few people were sending me these snapshots of a data book that came out last year, and I actually did make a video about it on Geography is Everything, but I forgot about it because it was like over a year and a half ago. There was a data book or like a map book of One Piece called Rurubu One Piece, and it was essentially like a collection and compilation of all the different regions in the One Piece world and the real life inspirations for the islands and cities that the Straw Hats visit. Like, probably the most notable ones are, like, Egypt is, you know, Alabasta's base, and then Venice is the basis for Water 7. So, like, stuff like that, okay? However, it also included a world map of the One Piece world, which was the main reason I made a video about it last year, because getting an official canon, or close to being canon, like, world map of the One Piece world, that's something that doesn't happen very often. Every once in a while we'll get something. Like, I remember there was like a bonus poster in one of the data books at one point that was like a map of the East Blue, and it wasn't really all that comprehensive. It was more of just for aesthetic, like it looks cool, rather than being like an in-depth map of all the locations in the East, you know what I mean? It just kind of looks nice. But this map we got in Rurubu One Piece, it actually looked really good, and you see the first half of the Grand Line, Paradise, there has a pretty good compilation of most of the islands that the Straw Hats visited during their time there. It doesn't include every single island that's like cataloged on the wiki, like every island that was ever mentioned. I really want to see in-depth maps of the North Blue, South Blue, and West Blue, because we have a pretty good solid idea of how the East Blue is, laid out, but I just want to see those other regions of the world. I want to know where Karate Island is in the South Blue. I think everybody wants to know where Karate Island is. I just like saying Karate Island, but no. What's more important is, okay, take a gander at the New World portion of this map, okay? And there's not really a lot of islands there. At the beginning of the New World there is, you see Risky Red Island and Raijin Island, Punk Hazard and everything. But let's zoom into this particular area right here. So right here we have Wano. And then you see 3 islands around Wano, which also just coincidentally happen to be in the exact same layout as the map that Law showed in one of the last chapters. So thanks to everybody that sent me these and reminded me of this, because even though I made a whole video about this last year, I completely forgot about this, okay? So thank you so much for that. But anyway, so now if you put 2 of these maps together, it actually lines up pretty damn well. Now, it's important to bring up that in the Rurubu One Piece map, it mentions the names of these islands, but it has question marks at the end of them. So, sort of to be like, this might be the Hachinosu, this might be Elbaf. I don't know, but considering there's not really a lot of other named islands left, I mean, we got Hachinosu, we have Sphinx, we have Elbaf, we have Lodestar, Laughtail, of course, but Laughtail is not part of the regular chart for the New World log pose. The log pose ends at Lodestar. The only way to get to Laughtail is with the road poneglyphs, okay? Or I guess if you just get really lucky. We don't exactly know the whole story behind Laughtail. How exactly do you find it? I would imagine, like, if it was just some random island somewhere in the ocean, with 800 years of the world government's reign behind them and the power of the Marines, I would imagine they would have bumped into the thing at some point, you know what I mean? There's been a bunch of theories about that, like you have to go to a location that's specified on the road poneglyph, and then like maybe do some sort of like puzzle or something, and then Laughtail will emerge, or it's some kind of mirage island that only exists under certain circumstances, of which can only be found out through the road poneglyphs or the load poneglyphs. There was a theory that it was like under the water. I used to think that for the longest time. It still might be, like it rises up out of the water. My first image of Raftel Island from the first time I heard about it in the One Piece story, when Crocus explained it, was an island at the very, very end of the New World, or the Grand Line, and it was just surrounded by the worst weather phenomenon possible. There was like 10 miles of nothing but whirlpools, and then beyond that was another 10 miles of nothing but typhoons, and then beyond that is like a giant wall of tornadoes, and then beyond that is the worst thunderstorm ever, and beyond that there are giant sea monsters. You know what I mean? Just layer and layer and layer of just absolute devastating, like nature. It's like, damn nature, you're scary kind of nature. You know what I mean? Okay, so it might be like that. Who knows? I mean, there's a reason why the world government and the Marines haven't accidentally bumped into it over the years, So the New World is dangerous, but the Marines are still active there. So, there has to be something going on exactly how you get to Laughtail. But going back to the 3 islands that Rurubu One Piece mentions, the island, if we line it up with the map that we saw in chapter 1055, we have the island to the northeast is actually Elbaf, and that was the island that Law said he was going to go to. So I guess Law and the Heart Pirates are going to Elbaf, which actually is pretty cool, because if the Straw Hats end up going to Elbaf at some point, then they'll be reunited with Law again. And, Law is a fan favorite character, so, Law has this moment where he's just like, next time we meet, we will be enemies. And Luffy's like, okay, that's cool, bye, Traffy, and Chopper's like, bye, Law. And everyone's like, oh, just shut up, I'm done with you guys, So I'm not being funny here. It would actually be really interesting if the Straw Hats land on Elbaf, Law's crew is still there, and they actually have to compete with one another. So maybe not like to the death or something, but it would actually be kind of fun to see Luffy fight against Law, or, to see, I don't know, Sanji fight against Beppo or somebody. You know what I mean? Like, just seeing the Heart Pirate crew clashing with the Straw Hats, and it might not be in a straight-up fight either. It might be like I don't know, they get to Elbaf and they learn about some sacred city at the top of Yggdrasil, the top of the giant world tree, and it's like first one to get there gets a prize or something, and then Law's crew competes with the Straw Hat crew, and then they just try to get up to the top of this tree, and they're like trying to like knock each other off or whatever. Law's using Room, and Luffy's using Gear Fifth and jumping around. It could be a competition of that nature, okay? But just going by this map and the way everything shakes down, Law's Heart Pirates will be going to Elbaf next. So then we have the island to the east, which is sort of the middle route, and that is actually the Hachinosu. So, in fact, that is actually the Full-Lead Island, which is the pirate paradise where purportedly the Davy Back fight began, and that was Rox's home base of operations. That's where Kaido and Big Mom and Whitebeard used to hang out back in the day alongside Shiki, Silver Axe, Wang Zhi! I have a book I'm reading right now on Imperial Chinese history, okay? And I just can't get over, like, any character, not character, these were actual people that existed, but any person that has the name Wang, I have to say like that. Like, in the middle of the Han Dynasty, around the year 9 AD, there was a dude who was like a nobleman or like an advisor to the king or the emperor that managed to overthrow Han for like 14 years or whatever. He like took over the dynasty and he started his own dynasty. It didn't last very long, but that dude's name was not Wang Zhi, but it was Wang Mang. I love saying it. It's just so much fun. Wang Mang took over Han for like a little while. Okay, anyway. So, yeah, those were those really strong pirates used to hang out at the Hachinosu, and now it is, of course, the home base of operations for Blackbeard. Now, this actually makes a lot of sense for Hachinosu to be that close, because remember, back during one of the interludes to the acts between Act 1 and 2, we had the introduction of, we had the reintroduction of Blackbeard for the first time in the second half of the story. We saw a post-time skip Blackbeard for the first time on the Hachinosu. Moria was there. We saw that Absalom was dead and Shiryu had his devil fruit. Katarina Devon was there with her devil fruit, the mythical Kitsune zone, right? And so Blackbeard mentioned that he kind of knew what was going on in Wano. He mentioned that he knew what was happening there. So the fact that Wano was so close to the Hachinosu does make sense, that he could send a spy that could infiltrate Wano somehow and then learn about this information and get the information back to Blackbeard in a timely manner. This makes sense. This is also the location where Kid is heading, and the Kid Pirates, okay? So Killer and Wire and Heat and Bubblegum and Gig and everybody, okay? Now here's the fun thing. Would Blackbeard be there right now? Because the last time we heard anything from Blackbeard, Blackbeard was just like, after the warlord system was mentioned to be abolished, Blackbeard was like, you know, get ready, raise anchor, men, we're heading out to sea. Ready the saber of Zebek. We're gonna get to them before the Marines can. Now, whether or not, what exactly did Blackbeard mean by that? It seemed to indicate something involving the warlords, but it could have been something else. It could have been like, you know, while the Marines are busy with the warlords, we're gonna go to this location and grab this. Or it could mean, you know, while Big Mom is in Wano, we're gonna take over Totland. You know, could be something like that. So the idea is Blackbeard left the Hachinosu. Now, he probably would not have left the Hachinosu completely unguarded. You know, he is a Yonko right now, and we're entering this new saga right now where it's basically, you know, you got Luffy as a Yonko and Shanks. They're probably not going to clash for a very long time, if not until, like, the very end of the story. And then, of course, you have Buggy, who's kind of he's an issue, but, you know, not in terms of, like, straight-up battle power. So it's really, it comes down to, like, Luffy and maybe Shanks together trying to take down Blackbeard or something. I don't know. But anyway, I don't think Blackbeard, though, would just leave his island, you know, unguarded. He has the 10 Titanic captains. He would probably take a fleet of his ships. He's like the admiral of his own navy. So it would be him and probably like his like top, you know, officers. So like Burgess, Lafitte, Shiryu, Van Augur, you know, they would all go with him. But some people would probably stay behind to protect the Hachinosu. Maybe like Avala Pizarro, San Juan Wolf. I would imagine San Juan, with just his ability, it would probably be best if he stayed behind at Hachinosu the most. Because if worst comes to worst, if some like giant fleet emerges and tries to take over Hachinosu, San Juan can just turn into the size of a damn mountain. I guess not a mountain, but he's pretty damn big with his power, okay? He can be the size of like Marineford HQ. He's getting pretty up there. He's a beefy guy. So, you know, you just approach the island and then just like a giant emerges. A giant times 10 emerges, even bigger than Oars, even bigger than Oars Jr., just like, I'm San Juan Wolf, everybody. You know, like, that would probably scare away most people from that island, okay? So I imagine, like, a lot of the level 6 prisoners that we didn't really get to see a lot of in action yet, they might be at the Hachinosu guarding it. Meanwhile, Blackbeard's core crew that he had, like Burgess and Lafitte and Van Auger and everybody, went with him to do whatever he was going to do. So I don't think Kid is going to have a direct problem, like he's going to have to face the full power of Blackbeard's navy, but he's going to have to fight at least a few people, he's going to have to fight a few of the 10 Titanic captains, okay? We might even get introduced to the 10th Titanic captain here. You know, maybe it's Aokiji, or maybe it's somebody else that we've never met before, just hanging out on the Hachinosu, like, Blackbeard's, you know, the Admiral's not here right now, but I'll take you on. I would actually like to see a Vallo Pizarro fight, because he's like the one dude we know like nothing about. We know it was actually one of the only people that Ivankov did not mention when Ivankov was going down that list of the worst criminals in history that were locked away in level 6. Ivankov mentioned Vasco Shot, Katerina Devon, San Juan Wolf. Did not mention Avallo Pizarro, and we know nothing about Avallo Pizarro. We know he has, like, metal arm gauntlet things, like he's maybe part cyborg. I guess saying part cyborg is sort of redundant because that kind of implies that, you know, there's like a full cyborg, but if you're full cyborg, then you're just a robot, so whatever. My point is that we don't know much about Avallo Pizarro, okay? So I want to see him. It would be fun to have Kid land on the Hachinosu, and then Pizarro steps out, and he's like, actually, his laugh style is like a Nyan. It's like a cat, like, saying something. He's like, yeah, the Admiral's not here right now, but I'll take you on. And he just opens fire on the Kid pirates, and then Kid's crew have to fight against maybe one or two of the 10 Titanic captains. Maybe Katerina Devon will be there and transform into the mythical zone. We can see more of the stuff she can do with her devil fruit. That'll be pretty sweet to see. All right, so that only leaves the last island, and that's the island to the southeast of Wano, the one that's sort of parallel, not really gaining a lot of traction. And that's actually Sphinx Island. So I was in a discussion video with Randy Troy a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned he would like to see the Straw Hats go to Sphinx for, like, a little bit of a rest arc. Now, I don't know if Randy saw the Rurubu One Piece map or whatever, but when I saw that, like, when someone, like, messaged me, like, hey, remember the Rurubu One Piece? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that! And then I remember what Randy said, and I'm like, wow, okay, holy shit, Randy might be right here. I think the Straw Hats are going to Sphinx. So congratulations, Randy, you got your wish. So you go check out that video that me and him did, but the idea behind that discussion was, like, the Straw Hats going somewhere to, like, chill out for a bit, just because, like, it's been such a long arc with Wano. We have a lot of stuff we need to cover. And also, here's the thing that I keep forgetting to bring up in the last few chapter reviews. Marco just left. You know, like, Marco's just gone. And it's, look, I don't have a problem with that, because Marco, it wasn't like Marco was planning on staying in Wano. Marco was literally just doing this as a favor to Nekomamushi, a favor to Odin, a favor to Izo, a favor to the Straw Hats in general. He was like, I should stop by Wano and I should help fight. You know what I mean? Like, I should at least lend a hand to kind of avenge Odin's will, and Izo is going to be there, and the Scabbards are going to be there, and I traveled with these guys like Nekomamushi and Inuarashi back in the day, and Luffy was there, and he fought alongside Pops and all of us to save Ace just like we did. I think Marco felt like, okay, I think he took a few days to get his affairs in order, maybe to put somebody in charge of Sphinx Island, because he was the protector of it, so nobody could attack it. And so I'm going to wait a few days for this island to be protected, and then he managed to make it to the war. But after the war was over, I mean, he is a doctor, and he has the Flames of Rejuvenation, so he probably didn't even need to wait around very long to heal up from the fights. Okay, probably give Marco, like, a good night's rest, and he's probably good as new. And so he woke up probably the next day after the battle, and I don't even know if he said goodbye to everybody. He was probably just, maybe Neko was there or somebody, and he's just like, hey, I got to get back home. I got to get back to protect Sphinx, Pops' homeland. You know, Nekomamushi, thank you for inviting me here. It was a fun time. I fought against 2 Yonko commanders. It was fun. But I got to get back. I got to get back. I have a shift in the morning. And so say goodbye to everybody for me. And Nekomamushi's like, sure. And then Marco just probably flew back home. You know what I mean? He probably didn't wait around for that week in Wano enjoying the banquets or something. He's on the clock. He has to get back to Sphinx. And he also probably assumed that, like, the Straw Hats might end up visiting me anyway, so if they do, great. If not, then it doesn't matter. I have to leave. So Marco just left. We don't know anything about what happened to him there, but he's probably back at Sphinx right now protecting the island, okay? So I would love to see the Straw Hats go to Sphinx because they could land there. They could Luffy. This was a big discussion that Randy said. He said Luffy has to visit Ace's grave, and I'm like, that would be beautiful. That would be perfect. That would be a perfect way to establish this final saga, you know, to kick it really off in a major way. Like Wano just ended in the last chapter. How cool would it be if in the next chapter, Luffy and the crew land at Sphinx, they meet Marco. There's not going to be like a major enemy to face off against. It's just like, hey, you know what? Rest here for a little bit, and then maybe Marco can explain some stuff about the latter half of the Grand Line, the latter half of the New World. Because here's the thing. Marco actually has very interesting insight to this. Because Whitebeard, you know, was a Yonko, so he probably journeyed places where no other pirate has been before. Okay? Now, Marco obviously does not know anything more about, like, the One Piece itself or, like, Laugh Tale, but he could give them some information. He could, like, sit the Straw Hats down, at least maybe Nami, and he could be like, okay, listen up. You guys have traveled really far throughout the New World, but I got to tell you something right now. This is the point where most pirate crews cannot make it further into the New World. I would imagine that log pose, most pirate crews do not make it to Lodestar. Okay, it is not simple to just make it to Lodestar. Roger made it there because he's a badass. Maybe Whitebeard made it there. Maybe some of the other former emperors like Shiki or whatever, maybe they made it there. We don't know if Shiki was an emperor exactly, but I think it was mentioned in one of the Ace Light novels that he was actually an emperor. Whatever. Really powerful pirates can make it there, but not every run-of-the-mill pirate crew can make it there, okay? So there has to be there's a difficulty curve at some point, you know what I mean? So Marco might sit down Nami and be like, all right, so there's some stuff you need to know going forward, all right? This is the last island that you can really visit. Most pirate crews tend to give up around this moment. And even really, I mean, you have to be a strong pirate crew to make it to the New World already. So this is a really big difficulty curve, maybe something like that. So Marco could explain that to them. They could rest up. They can learn a little bit more about the Whitebeard crew. And more importantly, Luffy can visit Ace's grave. And so we could have a moment where Luffy is standing over Ace's grave. Maybe he's by himself, and maybe he starts to cry, or maybe he doesn't cry. Maybe he's very confident. Maybe he's just like, I'm going to do it, Ace. I'm going to be king of the pirates. And then maybe we could see, like, not a real ghost, but like an image, like Luffy sees an image of Ace standing or sitting on top of his grave, and he's just like, I know you can do it, little brother. And then that's like the end of the chapter, and then that like leads on. Maybe it's like the Sphinx Island arc would only be like 3 chapters or something like that. Very minimal, but like just to give you the idea, just to understand, like, the Straw Hats are entering their final phase of their journey. This is it. We're going to Laugh Tale, okay? So I would love for them to go to Sphinx for that reason. I'm also thinking, wouldn't it be interesting if the Straw Hats fought against Marco? Once again, not a serious fight to the death, but Marco's like, I want to test you guys out. I want to see where you're at right now, okay? And it would be actually kind of fun. It would be maybe a scene like, I was thinking something similar to, remember the moment in My Hero Academia when Mirio just, like, stomps all of Class 1A like, by himself? Kind of a scene like that, where maybe, like, Marco's like, okay, I know that Luffy is strong. I know Zoro's strong. I know Sanji's strong. I know Jinbei's strong. Like, Marco doesn't need to test them. But what about the rest of the Straw Hats? So we would have Nami, Usopp, Chopper, Brook, Frankie, did I say Robin? Well, whatever. Robin twice. And, yeah, that would be it, right? And so just take all the other Straw Hats that aren't usually fighters, like, not, like, major fighters in the story. I know Chopper fights and everything, but, like, are not part of, like, the monster quartet now. So everybody except Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei. And then Marco's like, okay, all of you, come at me at once. I want to see what you're made of for this next part of the Grand Line, right? And we just have a scene where, like, Marco's fighting against them, tries to cut him, and Marco jumps in the air, and Nami tries to summon a lightning bolt, and he dodges it, and it's like, how the hell did you dodge that? And then, you know, like, Marco is just, like, one-shotting each member, like, knocking Chopper down or whatever. Like, Chopper goes into Monster Point and tries to bash him, and then Marco's just like, hey, you gotta focus. You can't just turn into a giant beast and start punching things. That's not gonna be good enough. And then, like, he uses, like, the blue crest or something, and then boom, knocks Chopper Monster Point to the ground. And he's just like, remember, Marco is a dude that fought against King and queen, who were trying to kill him, mind you, and he was able to fend them off for a decent amount of time. And queen and king, they were not pulling any punches. They were trying to kill the shit out of Marco, and Marco was able to fight against them for a decent amount of time, okay? He mentioned it was difficult contending with two, pirates that have a bounty of over 1 billion, but still, Marco's bounty is higher than both king and queen, and he was able to take them both on at the same time, all right? So if you had a scene where Marco fought against every Straw Hat except the strongest ones, then I think Marco could be able to, like, take them all down and kind of show, maybe this is a scene where Robin busts out Demonio, and Marco could have a really badass line of, like, that's a really cool ability if you can learn to master it. Boom! Just, like, uppercuts Demonio and knocks Robin down, and then, Frankie's just, like, just unloading a freaking barrage into Marco, and Marco just emerges, and he has the flames of rejuvenation, so with regular bullets and missiles even, Frankie's like, Frankie RPG! And then Marco just emerges and just dusts himself off and just like, that's a lot of firepower you got there, Mr. Cyborg Frankie, but there's a lot of people in the Grand Line that firepower ain't gonna do dick to. And so Frankie's like, oh no, I need to upgrade. And he's like, yeah, you do. And then Marco just like, kicks him right in the chest with his talon, and Frankie gets knocked back or slices him on the back or something, and Frankie drops, and it's just like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, it might be something like that. That would actually be really cool to kind of see, just Marco just dominating most of the Straw Hats. But then it's just like, it's a sparring match, and at the end of it, he's just like, okay, so think about where you need to improve and get stronger. Okay, there you go. Usopp is firing his pop greens and stuff like a giant, like he summons a giant carnivorous Venus flytrap to devour Marco, and then it just bursts into flames, or he just walks right out of it. It's like, that's an interesting kind of power, but, it's not going to work on me. It might push the Straw Hats to learn hockey. The rest of the Straw Hats, like, Usopp knows a little bit of observation, but the rest of the Straw Hats, for instance, not saying all of them will learn hockey. I'm saying, like, Usopp and Frank, you know what? Actually, yeah, all of them can learn hockey. Usopp and Nami will learn observation, obviously. Frankie and Robin would be more tuned to armament. I don't know about Brook. What kind of hockey would you like to see Brook learn? Chopper, probably armament, because he's mostly just a bruiser. I would want to say immediately armament with Brook, but I can actually see Brook going both. I can see actually maybe Brook being middle of the road, and I know that's contradictory to what Rayleigh said. Rayleigh said, like, everybody's typically tends to one type of hockey or the other. But if Brook had, like, a decent level of, like, both, I could actually see that, because he's pretty observant, but also he is a fighter, but he's more agile. You could see that from both ways with Brook. So he'd be a good, like, balanced sort of fighter. Meanwhile, Frankie is definitely, like, 100% armament. Robin's, like, 80% armament. And then meanwhile, we have, Usopp would be highly specialized in observation. And then meanwhile, Nami would be also highly specialized in observation for different purposes. Chopper would be armament, just monster point, and then just punch the crap out of things. Maybe it might be something like that. Maybe Marco might teach the Straw Hats hockey. Who knows? Anyway, because, they didn't really have hockey teachers. That's the thing. Luffy learned hockey from Rayleigh, who was a master. Mihawk is a master of hockey. Ivankov would have known observation hockey. You know what I mean? So, like, the Straw Hats, and Jinbei was a warlord. He's been training on his own, so him learning hockey, it makes sense. Fisher Tiger, I guess, taught him that. But, like, the other Straw Hats did not have hockey teachers. Heraclean was cool, but Heraclean did not know armament, probably. I don't think the Wizards of Witheria knew about hockey, okay, because they're, like, scholars and stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Marco might just teach the rest of the Straw Hats hockey, and they might spend, like, a week or so. Like, we can do, like, maybe 3 or 4 chapters on Sphinx, but maybe, like, a 2-week time skip could go by, so they can learn the basics of hockey or whatever, and, like, at least the fundamentals, and then they could work on it as they go from there. There's some of the Straw Hats, I don't think it's going to be starting from zero, because Usopp already has a foothold in observation. He's just never had anybody to teach him how observation works. So if Usopp already has a good idea of how observation works, and he's been able to do it already, okay, give him like 1 or 2 weeks of a crash course with Marco. He should be able to do that on command. Nami, different kind of observation because of the weather and like navigation and stuff. Once again, she should be able to have a good idea of it. Frankie, Chopper, I think they could have a basic idea of this after a crash course, you know what I mean? Well, anyway, yeah, so that's Sphinx, and then after Sphinx, maybe they could go to Elbaf and just go up the line. And so if they go up the line, they would actually go from Sphinx to Hachinosu to Elbaf. Now, I don't know how long each of these arcs would be. Honestly, it would be cool. I know there's not a lot of time left in the story, but if we do, like, let's say 4 or 5 chapters on Sphinx, And then the Straw Hats go to Hachinosu, and we spend like another 5-6 chapters on Hachinosu. And then we go to Elbaf, which is maybe a 20-30 chapter arc, maybe a slightly longer arc. Each of those arcs are not really all that long, but we can learn some stuff there. Maybe Hachinosu would be a little longer. But anyway, yeah, we can kind of just hop between those 3 islands. Overall, they might only be like maybe a year of serialization. Like the Straw Hats go on a little bit of a tour. You know, Sphinx, Hachinosu, Elbaf in the next year of One Piece serialization. And then after that, it's straight on to Lodestar and straight on to maybe straight up to Laugh Tale. You know what I mean? So maybe something like that would be cool. I want Elbaf to at least be like, you know, 30 chapters. Like at least the length of Zoe, if not a little longer than that. Like something to work with at Elbaf. And the Straw Hats just, rather than fighting really strong opponents, they learn more about the world from each of these locations. You know, Marco tells them a little bit more about the latter half of the Grand Line when they get to Sphinx. And then they go to the Hachinosu. Maybe they learn a little bit more about the Rocks crew at Hachinosu. And then they get to Elbaf, and they learn a little bit more about the Giants at Elbaf, and then the history of the world, and then they move on forward. I would like to see that, like a little bit of a sightseeing tour, rapid succession islands, rather than one big arc, which Wano was, right? All right. Well, anyway, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks to everybody that sent me the maps and all that. That's a lot of fun. And now we're moving on to the new installment of Animal Facts. That's right, Lemming Facts. Intro that I do not have. So, lemming facts. I actually have to read you a comment I got. It's so funny. So this comment I got on the last video when I mentioned I'm doing Lemming Facts next. And this actually is a comment from General Lee Shin, who is a character from Kingdom, who apparently watches my videos. And he says, Shin says, the fuck is a lemming? So, I should probably explain that. So, yes, a lemming, this is a lemming. They are adorable. They're very tiny rodents. They are indigenous to Arctic regions, sort of tundra regions of, like, Norway, like northern Norway and stuff like that above the Arctic Circle. They are most related to voles and muskrats, but they're also related in a super family or the mega family or whatever to rats and mice and guinea pigs and hamsters and all of the little rodents that scurry, you know? They're very tiny. They only weigh around 1 ounce, and they're only about 5 to 7 inches in length. They do not hibernate during the winter, like a lot of like mice, for instance. They'll dig little tunnels under the snow as like little super highways for mice to kind of scurry around in the snow. And they'll actually build little restrooms and stuff. So they'll have like a little kind of like an ant cave inside of the snow, where like this is a room where we store our food. This is a room where they go to the bathroom. So they're very, very intelligent in that regard to keep their food separate from where they shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, those are lemmings. Now you might say, well, okay, what's the difference between doing an animal fact on lemmings? You could have just done one on mice or rats or whatever. Why are you picking lemmings? Well, because lemmings, for whatever reason, I do not know why, but we're going to find out in these installments of Lemming Facts, are prone to so many myths and folk tales and legends. And I don't just mean legends like, you know, legend has it, a lemming rose to prominence and turned into a giant bear. You know, nothing like that. No. There's just all these wives' tales or whatever about lemmings, like, jumping off of cliffs and just committing a mass... I don't know if I can say this word on YouTube anymore. They TPK themselves. Jumping off of cliffs in massive amounts and just like dozens, hundreds of lemmings jumping off of a cliff for no reason other just to commit the TPK on themselves, okay? And then there's also, this is an actual line from the wiki. I have to read this to you. This is great. Yeah, I have it right here. Okay. Another myth may have roots in the fiercely aggressive nature of lemmings during population booms, and the corresponding leftovers of predatory frenzies. Lemmings do not explode. Did that sentence make any sense to you? That sentence went from, like, point A to point Z. Okay, so it's like, you know, lemmings, they, you know, when their populations increase, they might be more aggressive to one another, and, you know, getting, like, leftovers of food and all that stuff might be more difficult. They do not explode. How do those two things connect? Wait, what? Who talked about lemmings exploding? Why do you think lemmings explode? There's another one that lemmings will just fall out of the sky, which... that's actually not 100% wrong. They sometimes do. How is that possible? I'll explain it later. That's what I mean. Like, I've just, like, so they commit total party kills, they fall out of the sky, and they sometimes explode. Why does this one animal, like mice don't, there's no theories around there like mice explode or hamsters explode. Why are lemmings prone to all these weird myths and legends? That's why we're doing lemming facts, ladies and gentlemen. That's the reason, okay? Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking signing out.